Man, the clock is slow tonight. What? I said the clock is slow tonight. Yeah, I saw that one. Was pass it all over.
It didn't perfect.
Oh, you run the right one.
I tried both. Don't do suggestions.
Do the TOW. And maybe this one was. The clock's not moving. I'm going by this.
It's awful quiet for a room full of people.
I just, yeah. All right, Jackie, I'm gonna use it. You ready?
Calling meeting to order at 6 p.m. Please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Special welcome to the students in the audience tonight. And is it Principles of Democracy?
Yes.
I feel like it used to be called Problems of Democracy, right? Is that all right. Well, welcome everybody. Feel free to let us know if you have questions or anything like that, and we're happy you're here. Housekeeping item, we do need to add to the agenda under unfinished business. 2 items, voiding the approved tax commitment, and then approving the corrected commitment. Do we need a vote to put that on?
I would, yes.
Okay. Anybody like to make a motion to put that officially on?
Motion. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0, so that will be 9B. All right. Getting going on number 2, approval of treasurer's warrants. Payroll warrants for September 8th, FY24 and September 15th, FY24. Open for motion.
I move to approve the payroll warrants September 8, FY24 and September 15, FY24.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. 2B, accounts payable warrants for September 12th, FY 24, and September 19th, FY 24. Open for motion.
I move to approve accounts payable warrants for September 12, FY 24, and September 19, FY 24.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Approval of minutes for September 5th, 2023. I had two minor things. Under 10H, there's just a typo on Bill's last name. Under the liaisons for town committees. And then under 13, that last sentence, it's not the town's Facebook page, it's just on Facebook. I just wanna make that clear, because we're not posting anything on the town's Facebook.
Okay. If it's on the town's Facebook page, what Facebook page is it?
I put it on my select board page, my personal page, and the Wiscasset community page.
That might be helpful to point out, because I had wondered the very thing. I don't use Facebook very often. So wasn't sure where.
Okay, so
Where we
you can
appear.
put, say on the Wiscasset community Facebook page. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Otherwise, open for motion.
I move to approve the minutes from September 5, 2023 as amended.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. We do not have any special presentations or awards, committee appointments and resignations. Committee member Heather Jones resignation from the Climate Action Team, Budget Committee, and Comprehensive Plan Committee. Open for a motion.
I move to accept with regret the resignation from Heather Jones from the Climate Action Team, Budget Committee, and the Comprehensive Plan Committee.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? We will miss her on those
He
committees.
was also on the airport committee.
No, I believe a liaison.
And the,
He was the
oh,
liaison.
oh,
Yeah.
difference. Got it. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Public hearings, we've got several of these tonight. Special amusement permit for Sarah Gross doing business as Maine Tasting Center, 506 Old Bath Road, Wiscasset. Open for motion to open the hearing.
Move to open the public hearing.
Second.
And moved and seconded, all those in favor? Hearing is open at 6:05 PM. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this special amusement permit? One online. Going once. Going twice. Okay, open for a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all those in favor? Public hearing is closed at 6:05 PM. Open for a motion on the special amusement permit.
Move to approve the special amusement permit for Sarah Gross, DBA Maine Tasting Center, 506 Old Bath Road in Wiscasset.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. The second public hearing is for a liquor license for Chandler Sowden and Zachary Goodwin doing business as In a Silent Way at 51B Water Street, Wiscasset. Open for a motion to open the public hearing.
Move to open the public hearing.
Second.
And moved and seconded, all those in favor? The public hearing is open at 6:06 PM. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this liquor license? Anyone online? Going once, going twice. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all those in favor? Public hearing is closed at 6:06 PM. Open for a motion on the liquor license.
Move to approve liquor license for Chandler Snowden and Zachary Goodwin, DBA In a Silent Way, at 51B Water Street, Wisconsin.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Our final public hearing of the evening, general assistance ordinance appendices A through G for 2023 to 2024, open for motion to open the public hearing.
Move to open the public hearing. Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? We are open at 6:07 PM. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the general assistance ordinance appendices? Anyone online? Going once, going twice.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Public hearing is closed at 6:08 PM. Open for motion on the ordinance appendices.
Move to adopt the 2023-2024 general assistance ordinance appendices A through G.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Number 7, public comment on non-agenda items. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to something that is not on the agenda? If so, please come forward and state your name for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes. Anyone in person or online? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Number 8, department head or committee chair, first one, department monthly reports. Any questions, comments on the August 23 monthly reports? Saying none. All right, any questions or comments on the year-to-date expense / revenue reports or the HM, isn't that HM Payson? Statement of accounts. Okay. Seeing none, we're down to number 9, unfinished business A, LD 2003, Emily.
Good evening, everyone.
Are you tired of talking about it yet?
Well, I feel like it's my favorite subject to discuss here.
Actually, would it be okay if I asked Emily to come over here so
you could use the
see in
microphone.
here?
Oh, sure.
Do you mind?
No, we're fine.
Yeah,
Great idea.
easier.
Go down to your mouth.
Thank you.
So I think, you know, ORC is already talking about parking, and we had more questions on the accessory dwelling units and short-term rentals.
Yes, so I can give you a quick update on the parking. We have drafted an ordinance. Is that close enough? Closer? No. Everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So the ORC has been working on the parking ordinances, which is simply.
It's just, you're doing all the right things, we just, you know, it's not.
I'm not used to being at the big leagues.
People are closing in on you, man.
So the ORC has been working on the parking portion of the ordinances. And the reason why we're doing that is right now, the town ordinance simply states adequate parking must be provided, but we don't actually state what adequate means. So it can be kind of subjective when you're actually reviewing an application. So the ORC has put together a draft of what we're calling parking schedule, which assigns a minimum number of parking spaces for each use. And so that draft has been edited based on ORC comments, and when we meet on the 25th, we'll probably finalize that one. But there are 2 other sections of LD 2003 that the ORC and I are looking for guidance on the select board of how you would like us to craft the ordinance. LD 2003 allows for towns to cap a maximum size for accessory dwelling units should you choose to. I had read in the newspaper, there was some discussion at the last meeting talking about a minimum size. LD 2003 gives a minimum size of 291 square feet. It is designed that way so that tiny homes can be counted as an accessory dwelling unit under LD 2003 ordinances. We can't change that number, but we also don't have to leave it as a, for the applicant to decide how big their accessory dwelling unit is. If you choose to, you can set a maximum size. So
Excuse me, thank you.
whether it's just a flat number of say like, some towns have done 800 square feet, others have done 1,200 square feet, or you can do it based on a calculation. So it would be, one town did it, I think, is 40% of the floor area of the main residence is the maximum size of your accessory dwelling unit. Also capped at a certain square footage, whichever is less, because they also don't want you, if you have a 7,000 square foot home, 40% of that is still a pretty big dwelling unit. So that's kind of the first topic that we're looking for some guidance on. So I don't know if you want me to give an overview of both or want to start with that and then we'll roll into short-term rentals next.
Recommendation.
I have a recommendation that you consider capping it. I don't think it makes sense to just leave it open-ended. And the reason I say that is it's a matter of scale. So if you have a residence in the downtown village where our lot sizes are smaller, houses are closer together, and you have LD 2003 says that for accessory dwelling units, they don't need any additional lot size. We can't require that there be additional lot size. So if they're say on 20,000 square foot lot, we can't require an additional 20,000 square feet be part of that lot area for an accessory dwelling unit. If they have 20,000 square feet, that they can fit their accessory dwelling unit in that area and they can fit a septic system and a well, we need to allow it. So when you were talking smaller lots and we have no cap on another building, if you have the residence is 3,000 square feet, anything that's accessory to that residence could be 2,999 square feet or less, which is still a really big building. So that's kind of why I think you should consider some type of maximum. I think the purpose of accessory dwelling units is that they're smaller, typically one floor. It allows for, a single occupant or maybe a couple to reside in. I think a lot of people in Maine are considering them as, being able to rent out to supplement their income to either workforce or, perhaps you're an adult that wants to, remain in place, but maintaining your bigger historical home with a lot of floors and doesn't stay warm in the winter. You'd rather live in a smaller, one floor, walk-in, easier to maintain. So you might rent out your main house and stay in the accessory unit, either you as an older couple or yourself. So I think there's benefits to accessory dwelling units for sure, but also, recognizing that you don't want them to be basically like a summer cottage for your guests for a couple nights, in the summer. That it really should, you would hope that it would be rented out year round. Or lived in year round, although that's not something that we require, that doesn't need to be decided on through LD 2003 legislation. That's really up to the homeowner to decide if they're gonna rent it year round or just keep it.
If you're talking outside of downtown where we don't have sewer and water, it's still required that they can tie into the current water and sewer supply if they qualify.
So if you're not connected to public utilities, so public sewer and water, you have a private well and a private septic system. As part of your application to build an accessory dwelling unit, you would need to show that the sewer or the septic system is sized adequately to accommodate that additional living space. So you wouldn't be able to just tie into your existing septic unless it was over designed. It may be that you either need to expand it or put in a separate septic for the new building. Additionally, the same goes for the well. You would need to submit to the town that you can access potable water. So whether it's, tying into the well that's there or drilling a new well, again, that would be up to the
And
landowner.
if you are putting in another well and a septic, you better go by the rules, how far apart they've got to be.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
So, let's say that someone in the rural area of town, has a small house and he wants to build a big one. from what you've outlined, that wouldn't be possible, or else he would have to get a waiver, he or she. Right.
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends on what the cap is. If it's a really small house and it's say 1,200 square feet and your maximum for an accessory dwelling unit is 1,200, they could call that, convert that to their accessory and build a larger home.
They could just say that this is the accessory and the other. They
If
could
they're
still
building-
build
yeah,
a big house.
So say they build a 3,000 square foot home, as long as that smaller house, and that they meet the, lot size, because now you're building a main residence, not an accessory dwelling unit. So for there, you have to make sure that there's enough, acreage to do that, to meet dimensional requirements, setbacks, lot coverage, lot size, minimum lot size.
Mhm.
So, what you're asking me is a theoretical, and I always have to give the caveat, like, it's theory, but depending on the property itself, yes, they could consider that smaller building an accessory dwelling unit that they've lived in, and then build a larger home on the property if it can accommodate it, and they can fit their new septic, their new well, and meet the requirements that we have in the ordinance already.
So you can switch them.
You could. The other option is if the concern is limiting, a person's right to develop their land, or it feels like we're limiting property rights, but you also want to take into accommodation, that sense of scale in our more dense areas, you could consider having it a requirement only, in Village 1 and Village 2. I know we have, marijuana is a good example. In the cannabis ordinance, it says that we prohibit cannabis establishments in Village 1 and 2. So maybe it's that in Village 1 and 2, you have a smaller accessory dwelling unit size. In the rural areas where you have a lot more land, and it's not gonna feel so tight that you could also, come up with some sort of halfway measure, if you will, that maybe they're not as capped, or they have a bigger allowance for an accessory.
Other questions?
Mhm.
There's not too many places in the village where you can put another little building in.
I think it would be tough, but because LD 2003 basically throws the minimum lot size out the window and says you can't require that they have more room for an accessory dwelling unit, you might be able to eke some on, and it'll feel tight, if you can make it work. If you have a septic that's already there and you could just, tie in, if it meets the septic requirements, but it's just something to consider. I mean, I'm not pushing for one or the other. I have my personal opinion as a planner that I think you should consider capping it, but also, the ORC is looking for input, so we will follow the direction of the select
Or
board,
say capping what?
the maximum size of an accessory dwelling unit.
But it would be in relation to the other building that's already there, or are you saying
And
It can
establish
be.
20,000 square
It's,
feet?
that's a choice. So it could either be just a number, a set number across the board, or you can do it based on the size of the building that's already there. And so it would be like a ratio of that, a percentage of that.
That would be more reasonable to me, to use a ratio approach. However, I am naturally disinclined to come up with rules, like putting a cap on something without knowing, that there are going to be instances where you want to be able to do what is being prohibited all of a sudden. And I assume that waivers will be available for reasonable
Not
For reasonable
necessarily.
actions. No?
I don't think so.
So if we're doing something that somebody could not possibly get a waiver for, how can we make this new rule flexible enough to allow things that later on are gonna be reasonable?
So Sarah,
I was just gonna say, you can always change it with a vote later. This is just a starting point, so if all of a sudden, let's say we said, okay, no more than 50% of the original size, of the original dwelling size.
Yeah.
And then 2 years from now, we've been getting 10 requests a year for something bigger, and there's a preference amongst the community that we wanna adjust it, we could then go and
Then
do
you go
that.
back and change the ordinance.
Yeah,
Well, no. I wish we could build in some flexibility for the board to be able to decide those things without changing an ordinance. And changing an ordinance is rather onerous, and it should
Yeah.
be. it should be.
Right.
Because you're establishing guidelines that, are good for the town.
But we also don't tend to have anything to do with, I mean, this would be planning board decisions in terms of site plan applications and building permits and.
Exactly, which is why I would build in flexibility for the planning board to accept.
Well, it would be,
Or
if
be
it's
able
just
to
an
make
accessory
waivers.
dwelling unit coming in, it would be a building permit, it wouldn't necessarily be going to the planning board unless they were putting on multiple units on the site.
Hmm.
What I do wanna say though is I think respectfully that you're looking at it as if we're trying to limit, you know, that LD 2003 is limiting things, and that's kind of the opposite of what LD 2003 does. It's
Oh, I
hopefully
know.
making it
I know,
easier
it's supposed
for
to open it up.
people to be able to build an accessory dwelling unit or another dwelling unit on their property, if they have the land to do so, especially the accessory dwelling unit piece, because we're not requiring that they need more land than they already have. The purpose of the ADUs is to allow them to build on what they already have, so hopefully they can either create a rental unit that will go to, you know, someone just joining the workforce, or someone could age in place there, or they could just use it to have for family and friends to come visit, whatever that use may be, without hopefully having to go through a lot of additional hurdles in terms of regulatory land use restrictions. What we're looking to do, or what I'm seeking some guidance on, is do you want us to cap it so that it at a dimension that makes sense? And I'm certainly not, I think the ORC can figure out what that number is and look at what other towns have done, but more just, do you want to cap it so people don't try and use that as a way to build another residence on their home that could be, you know, so you have 2,000-3,000 square foot residences on a property.
I kind of like the idea of separating it with the districts.
Okay.
I don't know how you guys feel in terms of, I don't see a problem with,
To Terry's point, and I've lost the word, if you've got some zoning thing and you wanna, you're too close to the property line,
Mhm.
you ask for a
Variance.
variance, thank you. And we could do that in this.
That's
she's
what I
talking
kept
about.
saying, yeah.
I don't know though what
She
the
said-
argument would be
right,
to grant the variance. So typically you have to, for a variance to be granted, you have to show hardship. So if you can't meet a setback, you have to show why, under any circumstance, you can't meet that setback. So there's a layer to it on the applicant's, an onus for the applicant to prove like why they need the variance. So I guess what would the argument be that they need something larger than, let's use the number 1,200 square feet. Why would they need something greater than that? You know, and how would we prove that? And how would your Board of Appeals then review that variance?
I think that would actually clash with the current ordinance that we have on variances, which is very, very narrow, very narrow.
To your point, Sarah, I'm not really in favor of capping, but I would entertain if it's the favor of the board for the village districts. But
So you would look at capping it for the village, but not necessarily for the rural area?
yeah, I mean, I would entertain the thought of it and let the ORC look at it, but doesn't mean I'm gonna go for that.
Yeah.
And certainly what you decide tonight, it's just for the ORC to have some guidance to actually craft something. We will be back with a draft for you to review, and then we can, you know, certainly, Make changes.
Track it,
yeah, absolutely. But at least we'll have something to go off of.
I agree with Jane.
There are other towns who've gone through this, right? Already.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep, I mean, you're not the only boat, there's, every town in the state is going through this right now, there's a few that have, started to implement this. And have been successful in already changing their ordinances. A lot more are where you sit tonight in terms of figuring out, you know, what they can and can't regulate, and then what they'd like to see in terms of what they can regulate. So you're not alone, and I think, Dennis and Sarah, you shared the spreadsheets that I prepared, right? Okay.
okay. So we good with them drafting something with some sort of cap on village district, and we'll look to see what it looks
Like
like.
help narrow it down, if it's something else we don't have to look at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Short-term rentals.
Yes, so the other question that comes up whenever we discuss LD 2003 is State requirements for LD 2003 simply state that should a municipality choose to, they have the ability to regulate short-term rentals. The state legislation does not speak to it, in terms of what that regulation may look like. It just simply empowers towns that should you choose to, you can regulate short-term rentals. So some towns may take that to mean, we don't want short-term rentals, we're gonna ban them. Others have come up with licensing requirements. Others have like a system where they only have so many licenses. So when I say regulate, I don't mean restrict necessarily, but simply a process so that the town knows how many short-term rentals there are in town, where they are. Especially so if the code enforcement officer gets, repeated calls about, neighbors feeling like it's a nuisance or, something's going on there, they know that it's a short-term rental or they know who to contact. Because the people there for the weekend probably aren't the owner. So the ORC is looking for guidance on, do you want us to touch this topic of short-term rentals? And if so, how far do you want us to go with it? And I'm speaking generally, we'll look at what other towns have done. I think I've shared some examples in the past, both with the select board and the ORC of what other communities have put together. But we can do more research and craft something for you to actually read and review and edit.
As a business license suffice?
There are towns that are doing it just as a simple business license, that they would, have to renew annually. So that's one way of doing it, sure.
Can you express an opinion as a?
I'm trying not to.
But I'm asking.
No, as an Airbnb owner, personally, that I would not find that inappropriate. I cannot speak for others, but just because I have to treat it like a business for all other paperwork and taxes purposes.
It makes sense to me to have a registry of short-term rentals in town. Just simply for the very reason that you listed, so that we know where they are. And, some of these would just be a room in a house, I understand, but still we would want to know that.
So if.
But light-handed, with a light hand, all of these restrictions, it's just not, I'm not interested in, discouraging B&Bs. They're doing a good job out there. We don't have much, lodging, and thank God we've got them. So I don't wanna hurt their feelings, right? There you go. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Is there a,
Just a sec.
No, go ahead.
is there a description of what a short-term rental is?
Yes, towns have defined them differently in terms of, the number of days. It's been anywhere from 28 to 31 days, but typically it's, a house or room that is rented out to guests to stay in for a period of less than a certain number of days. And I can send you definitions of what other towns have done, but like I said, it's typical of between 28 and 31 days.
I think Bangor just said theirs at 28 days. Because they're going through this now up there. I don't know if you guys saw the article in the paper today or not, but Bangor is going through this whole thing. My own suggestion might be, if it's going to be as simple as a business license, that rather than draft a whole ordinance for this, we just amend the business license ordinance to include that
Right.
instead of going through that
Yeah,
whole onerous process.
I like that a lot.
Other thoughts? Does that give you enough to go on?
It does. I'm sure we will be back if we have any other questions, but this certainly gives us a lot more to work with, so thank you.
No, thank you. All right. You don't have to say that. Okay.
Yes. You're gonna suffer through the rest of this.
I'm rolling away, thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for taking this up.
All right. Down to 9B are added two things. I believe Terry has some motions to read.
Okay, I move to void the municipal tax assessment warrant for fiscal year 07/01/2023 to 06/30/2024. That was approved on 09/19 or 13/2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Yes.
I move to approve the recalculated municipal tax assessment warrant for the fiscal year 07/01/2023 to 06/30/2024. Set the mill rate at $17.047 and commit the same to Sue A. M. Anderson, tax collector.
Second.
And moved and seconded, any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Okay, business license, and this should be coastal water treatment. And that's it, right?
Yep.
Okay, at 681 actually, back road, open for motion.
What is the name of the?
It's coastal water treatment. And it should be 681
681.
back road.
Move to approve the business license for coastal water treatment service at 681 Back Road.
Second.
And moved and seconded, any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. We do not have any assessors business, town managers report.
I know I've been getting, Ted's been getting, you guys have probably been getting a lot of complaints about Foy Road. We're doing the best we can. The pavers were supposed to be here by now. It's rained almost every day this summer, and they are very far behind. They will get here when we get here. If we have to bring the contractor back in to do some more work up there to try to shore that up, we will. But I just ask everybody to please be patient. We're working on this as diligently and as hard as we can. I know it's frustrating for people, it's frustrating for us as well. Just a reminder that I will not be in the office next Wednesday. I will be in Chelmsford, Mass, attending the Raffield's training conference. And from September 30th to October 4th, I will be at ICMA conference in Austin, Texas. That does include a meeting date, so I will zoom in on that meeting from Austin. It is a work, it's not a vacation, it is a work thing, so I'll zoom in and participate on that meeting for the third, I think it is, third.
Yeah.
Storm damage wasn't horrible bad around town. We did have some folks on Old Bath Road that took a hit from a tree, wiped out some cars, wiped out a pole, wiped out the power for a while. But we didn't fare too badly. I know there were some people that were frustrated that we closed the transfer station on Saturday, but we can't run the transfer station without power. There's no way to push the trash into the trailer. And we just simply can't do it, so I apologize to those that showed up there and found it closed, but there's not much we can do about that. Tax bills will go out, this is correct, we have double checked it, I apologize to everybody for the confusion for this, but it would have been a bigger mess if tax bills had gone out and then we discovered it and had to redo everything from there. I don't even know how we would have fixed that, so. And your taxes are actually gonna be even a little bit less than we thought. So, that's not a bad thing.
You didn't do that on purpose so that we would look a little better about
I don't do much to make you guys look good, so.
you.
And it shows.
We are doing interviews on Thursday for the economic development position. Bill and Sarah and I and Mary Ellen Barnes from Regional Planning Commission will be, we did receive 25 resumes. We've narrowed it down to 4 people to interview. And then we'll probably pick maybe 2 from those to bring back maybe for a second interview, so, stand by for more information on that.
Do you know yet where they're going to be housed?
I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, we can build onto this building real quick before we come up with.
That's probably a discussion for the future that probably needs to be had, given the space constraints that we've already been faced with anyways. I think we need to look to the future and see as the need for our services grow, and the need for our space grow, what we're going to do, whether we're going to build that way, or build over there and sell this building or turn it into a public safety building and move the town office elsewhere, I don't know, but I think that's a conversation that's gonna have to happen probably sooner rather than later. And it needs to start showing up on the discussion list. I did meet Oliver, and I met with Maine Emergency Management last week to discuss funding for the seawall around the wastewater treatment plant. Seems the EPA doesn't want to fund it, but FEMA has different rules, and FEMA is maybe willing to fund it, as opposed to having to move the entire plant. That was just a very preliminary discussion, but it did go very well. I don't think we would get 100% funding out of them, but there's a lot of money with the bipartisan infrastructure bill and some of the other bills that are good passed. A lot of money out there, so. I'm trying to take advantage of what I can find, when I can find it, where I can find it, and get some of this stuff done. I did get word today that we did get final approval for the Brownfields grant, and we got final approval for the grant for Old Ferry Road. Great. So those are now done deals, and that between the 2 of them is over $2 million to get some projects done. We did get 1 of pump station generators funded through FEMA. We put in 4, they're funding 1. That was at the 90-10. We can resubmit the other 3 under the 75-25. I just need to figure out where I'm gonna come up with the 25%, so I haven't quite figured that out yet, but if I can't find it within the existing budgets, then I may come back and ask to do something out of remaining ARPA funds, or we might have to ask the town to help me have some funds, or just not do it, so we'll see where that goes. They were working on Walnut Walk today. I went down there at noontime. They were hammering away on the roof, getting the roof done, so that is moving forward, and I did get an email from her today saying they had to replace the entire gutter system that was no good. And the mason is expected to be on site within 2 weeks to start doing the project.
Any chance the new CEO had a chance to look at the building across the street, which I never can remember the name
No,
of.
but it's on his list of things to do, and he's got a lot going on his plate right now.
Understand.
There's a lot, trying to get caught up with some of the stuff that Bruce was working on. We have 2 land use violations that are now scheduled for court hearings in November. We've been almost 2 years getting to this point, but he's got to get up to snuff on that, because Bruce Mullins had most of that information in his head.
Gosh.
So we've got to get him up to snuff on that.
Mhm.
He started sending out letters today on some of the folks that are decided to reside in campers in town, to try to deal with some of that issue that's been kind of plaguing us now for a while. So he's got a lot going on, but he is getting caught up and he's getting comfortable with things, so we will get to it.
One more thing, Whippoorwill. Is it working? Is the new well working? I got word that the water wasn't any good, and I thought, how could that possibly be?
I don't know, they're meeting here, I'm allowing them to use the meeting room. I can't remember the date, maybe it's this week, I'd have to look on my calendar. The residents are gonna meet here with Senator Rennie and Pine Tree Legal, so that they make sure that they have adequate legal representation for what needs to happen out there.
Mm-hmm.
And they are gonna use, I am allowing them to use this room. I think it was this Wednesday,
Yeah, I think it's tomorrow.
the next tomorrow.
Will we have any town representation at that meeting?
I'm going to get.
Thank you.
So in terms of webinar, we were gonna come back to the letter and whether we were gonna send it. I guess I would propose at this point, since they're actually doing something, that we give them, we just keep checking in each 2 weeks, and if things stall and they're not doing anything, then we send. Does that sound good,
Yeah.
James?
Yeah.
All right, other board business, oh, go ahead.
But you do what you're gonna say now.
No, I was just gonna say, we did release the first, edition of the select board bulletin. Hopefully folks got a chance to see it. There's a paper copy up on the bulletin board out here, and then it's available, on the Wiscasset Community Facebook page, my select board page, if you follow that on Facebook, and also the town website's right on the homepage there. We'll be putting that out within a week or two of every meeting, just to explain some of the things that we have going on and updates that people might, like to know, and common questions we're getting, that sort of thing. So I hope you'll find it helpful. Happy to have any feedback that you have, at any point, but, we're hoping that it'll help people know what's going on. So just wanted to mention that. Bill?
I think it'd be helpful to the students to know how we talk about paying the bills and things, and we're not looking at anything. That we get these bills sent to our home by email, and we look at them and sign them. Any questions, they come in last week, in fact, they come in almost daily. That any questions, we can call in and get the answers, have things changed and so forth. So when we meet here and we say we're gonna pay the bills, we all go like that, we have looked at them and we know what we're doing. But we get a packet like this in the mail in the middle to the end of last week. And like I say, the finances come in daily, and payroll and other expenses. So just put that together so you know, we do some head work.
Yeah, and I and others who want to, I'm happy to stay if you guys have any questions. We can do a picture too, but, if you guys have any questions or whatever, so. Anyway, any other board business before we adjourn?
Motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Motion passes 4-0. We are adjourned at 6:44 PM.
So Richard, I see some activity down there today.
Yeah, they didn't write that out for me, I wouldn't
I do want to say that after the meeting, that the seniors, the senior class is coming up with a great idea to paint their spaces in the parking lot. And I want to talk about